Hello, right now it is June 16th and the time right now is 12:57 a.m. The reason I want to make this video is to let the viewers know about something about my dad, the Greedy Framer. My dad, the Greedy Framer, is basically a scam artist. He is not a medical doctor. He goes around telling people that he is a medical doctor. In fact, when my sister went to Florida, she only went to Florida because he was living inside of a room inside of a mosque. And he couldn't even afford to live inside of a house at that time, and he would send his family overseas because he wanted to save money. Basically, my dad is a scam artist. At one time, so before I get to the story, I have to first say that he writes in his resume that he's a consultant doctor, when in fact the reality is he's never even given his board exams. The reason he does this is so that he could send these resumes over to hospitals overseas and then try to scam them in order to get a job working as a doctor, despite never having given his board exams in any country in the world. At one time, law enforcement witnessed with their own eyes my dad, the Greedy Framer, going to a hospital in Karachi, Pakistan, and telling them that he was a licensed doctor in Ireland. And then he tried to fight very aggressively in order to try to get a job working as a doctor in a hospital, thinking that it was a third world country so they would give him a job easily. When they verified, they found out that he was not licensed in Ireland to be a doctor, not in Pakistan or any other country in the world. In fact, he's not even licensed as a physician's assistant or any job that would require a college degree. He only helps out doctors at the hospital. And when law enforcement found out about this and saw him doing this, they were so amazed by this that the story traveled everywhere before it made an episode on the Infographics channel on YouTube about a man working as a doctor for years before he was found out as being complete total scam artist. My dad had made an episode on Infographics about himself working as a doctor without being licensed, is how aggressively he tried to scam a hospital in Karachi one time. Law enforcement obviously witnessed it, and that's why law enforcement spread the news around, due to which my dad, the Greedy Framer, did this. The courts have to understand the fact that my dad, the Greedy Framer, came in 2025 saying that he was only coming over to help the courts get to the truth. He tried all year to lock up my brain savant. Everyone was puzzled as to why he was doing this. The real reason was that my dad, the Greedy Framer, had found out about my brain savant, and he wanted to lock it up only so that my mother could not get the money that he could not get. He fought very hard and aggressively throughout 2025, but without fabricating a false testimony, he was not able to do that. Fabricating a false testimony, obviously, is not that easy. So, after getting rejected by me throughout the entire year of 2025 and not being able to ask law enforcement to fabricate a false testimony, he finally did what he had to do. He went ahead and he called and asked law enforcement to give his Framer sisters a false testimony. And the law enforcement did that, and they fabricated a false testimony against me on November 20th that caused so much mass panic and chaos that no news anchor on CNN was able to smile on live TV for days after November 20th. A false testimony that was fully ordered by my dad, the Greedy Framer, only so that my mother could not get the brain savant money. The courts have to keep this fact in mind, that my dad, the Greedy Framer, had ordered the false testimony against me to be made on November 20th by begging his sisters, along with his Framer sisters, along with law enforcement, to go ahead and fabricate this false testimony against me. So this false testimony gets caught, the government puts in an informant, and this testimony gets caught as being a complete and total fabrication. My dad, the Greedy Framer, the scam artist, does not let go at this time. He instead, what he does is he makes more lies against me in court in early March. He tries to. And while he's doing this, the courts are already looking at the false testimony and the new lies, and they're just shaking their heads saying, we can't take this, and they don't know why. Finally, they realized why. The reason was the government informant for November 20th was the person handing them the fabrication material, just so happened to be the person whom they'd already confessed as everything that they were saying in early March as being a complete and total lie. My dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters then went on to desperation. And in their hour of desperation, they revealed everything. The extreme amount of greed that this disgusting man had. My dad, the greedy framer, on March 7th, sent me a porn star's picture named Sunny Leone with his sister Farah's name on it 3 times on the morning of March 7th. He was already made aware that this was an open advertisement for incest in exchange for an illegal assurance of money. On February 11th, the night of February 11th, my dad, the greedy framer, either he was caught lying or he was told by the courts that my brain savant is about to get freed. Due to which, after midnight on February 11th, at 22 minutes past midnight, my dad, the greedy framer, starts messaging and calling me frantically. 22 minutes past midnight. Saying things like, it was so nice to hear from you after so long. Despite the entire day of February 10th, before midnight, me and him arguing in court back and forth. And yet after midnight, the man says, it was so nice to hear from you after so long. Only because either he was caught with another lie or because the courts told him that my brain savant was about to get freed. My dad, the greedy framer, went into a panic and starts calling and messaging me about this, like this, trying to sweet talk me 22 minutes past midnight. Obviously, I did not reply because I knew the argument that we were having in court. At 3:17 a.m., he sends me a porn star named Sunny Leone's picture with his sister Farah's name on it. At 3:56 a.m., that same night, February 11th, he sends me a picture of a woman resembling his ugly, weird-looking sister, spokesperson's mother from Florida. Yeah, he's just disgusting individual, and he was promoting incest with his ugly, big, fat, old sister named Farah the greedy framer at 3:17 a.m. on February 11th. He was told that this is a porn star, and what you're doing is you're promoting incest in exchange for an illegal assurance of money on February 11th. So when he was caught with these set of lies in early March, and November 20th had already been caught, and he realized that the government informant was the person helping them fabricate, as in this government informant was already told and confessed to these statements as being complete and total lies. He went into panic and, being the frenzy maniac that he is, promoting incest again. March 7th, 2026, he sends me that same picture of the porn star named Sunny Leone with his sister Farah's name on it, despite having already been told on February 11th that this is promoting incest in exchange for illegal assurance of money using his own sister. He didn't care. March 10th, 2026, he does the exact same thing with his big, fat, ugly old sister named Afreen the perverted framer, sending me sexually explicit pictures of a woman resembling Afreen, the disgusting perverted framer predator, on March 10th. And every single day afterwards, a picture of a woman resembling, sexually explicit pictures of a woman resembling Afreen, the disgusting, ugly, old, greedy framer. Not only this, my dad's wife is, no one's seen her, but she's ugly, old, disgusting, and weird, and big beaver teeth, disgusting looking face. And he tries on March 12th, 2026, through law enforcement, obviously. All of these things occurred through law enforcement, so the evidence is there. On March 12th, he asked law enforcement if I was willing to sleep with his ugly, old, disgusting looking wife with his big beaver teeth to fulfill his disgusting sexual perversions on March 12th. All of this evidence is with law enforcement because, of course, he asked law enforcement to do all of this. So basically, my dad, the Greedy Framer, is a scam artist. He's not a medical doctor. He's never given his board exams. He's never been licensed in any country in the world. He tried to scam a hospital in Karachi at one time, thinking that because it's a third world country that they would buy it. They didn't buy it, and he got really aggressive, and law enforcement saw the entire thing, and the news circulated before it ended up making an episode on the Infographics channel about a man working as a doctor without ever being licensed. He made numerous lies except for being a doctor. He also claimed in the starting that he didn't know about my brain savant. He didn't believe in it, and he didn't care about it. In fact, nothing that he was doing was related to it. But after February 17th at 3:02 a.m., when he's told that my brain savant getting freed is inevitable, he goes right to the money. And he starts blackmailing with price tags of money, with his favorite one being for 8.9 million euros that was blackmailed price tag and sent to me as an harassment on February 19th, the morning of February 19th, 19 times by this psycho scam artist blackmailer. 19 times I was blackmailed with 8.9 million euros on the morning of February 19th by my dad, the Greedy Framer, to try to harass me and make me think like he's going to take some money out of me after my brain savant would get freed, so that I would get so badly harassed that if by going through this ordeal of this man torturing me through this, that in the end I would just call him after my brain savant would get freed and offer him something cheap, which I would never do. I would never give a single penny. And he was only doing this after February 17th because he was told that no one's going to watch his crazy, insane videos. Now, the thing is, people have to realize the fact that my dad, the Greedy Framer, is a scam artist. And he's a liar. And he's lied over and over and over again. November 20th was a false testimony. It was a lie. He begged law enforcement to give it to his Framer sisters, and he begged that false testimony to be made. He was a liar then. Then he lied again early March 2026, kept lying over and over again like a scam artist would, and he would try to do that until he realizing that these set of lies in early March 2026 were already confessed to the government informant as being complete and total lies, due to which he tried to get me to commit incest with his sisters and asking me to fulfill his disgusting sexual perversion of sleeping with his wife on March 12th. All the evidence is with law enforcement. Spokesperson's mother, his sister, asked me to marry her daughter on March 9th 3 times, while claiming all these things about me. The thing that the courts have to be reminded about the fact is no one would ever jeopardize their ability to be able to testify against me, especially after being caught on November 20th making a false testimony against me by asking me to marry their daughter, unless if what they were doing on November 20th was due to extreme envy, due to which they had moved on to extreme greed by trying to check to see if I was interested in her ugly weirdo daughter or not, which I was not. For the Greedy Framer tried the exact same thing on March 9th by trying to get me to marry her weirdo daughter, sending me ads for her on March 9th and also April 9th. And also June 15th, as in yesterday, at 10:56 p.m. For the Greedy Framer tried again to try to get me to marry her daughter, as in just a little while ago, a couple hours ago, the Zorro ad for her daughter, her weirdo, ugly-looking daughter named Zara, whom I have absolutely no interest in, and this forced marriage thing is extremely annoying. So basically, for the Greedy Framer was very greedy. She's a framer, and she tried these things with incest that my dad, the Greedy Framer, was also trying, only to try to get illegal assurances of money through me. And so these people are basically liars and fabricators. Both for the Greedy Framer, spokesperson's mother, my dad, the Greedy Framer, Afrin, the Greedy Framer, and the spokesperson knew about the November 20th false testimony being made while it was being made, and yet did absolutely nothing about it. The courts have to remember these things when speaking about my dad. Also, the other thing that the courts have to be reminded of is that I've only met my dad about 3 times in my life. And one of those times was in 2011 when my dad was giving sermons to large groups of people about mass murdering innocent human beings that law enforcement saw each and every single day. My dad, you have to be reminded, is not a government informant. He was not checking to see who was or was not a jihadist or not. It was nothing of that sort or nature. My dad was giving sermons to people in masses from his house to carry out murder of innocent human beings each and every single day before he was tipped off by law enforcement to not do this anymore. This man was tipped off by law enforcement to not do this anymore. The courts have to be reminded of the fact that this is not how law enforcement was supposed to handle this situation. They were supposed to send in people to try to check to see if he was really recruiting people for mass murder, which he obviously was, and how many people he had sent to terror groups by then, how many people had died because of him by then. This is not what law enforcement did. Instead, law enforcement went ahead and tipped him off, saying, we're running sex schemes and money fraud and you're becoming a nuisance. So why don't you stop doing what you're doing, at least till Hassan leaves? This is not what law enforcement was supposed to be doing. My dad, the greedy framer, was no informant. He was doing this because people think of him as, with his big beard, they think of him as having some mystical powers due to which he could get people's prayers answered. And and this man who is supposed to have these mystical powers is asking me on March 12th if I'm willing to sleep with his ugly, disgusting looking old wife or not. March 12th, 2026, and trying to get me to commit incest with his ugly, big, fat old sisters to try to get these illegal assurances of money from me, only because he thought that his lies were all caught, there was no one else fabricating false testimonies against me, and that he was about to get kicked out. This man, whom people thought had mystical powers, was now working as a demagogue, inspiring hatred against normal, average human beings in order to try to work as a demagogue, get more and more people, because demagogues, get people's attention, try to get more and more people's attention so that they would go to his house in masses and listen to sermons and think that, this guy is really good or nice, or he's trying to speak for us, when in fact my dad, the greedy framer, was not speaking for anyone. He was using the word jihad, and he was saying that this is good, that the global jihad should, or the mass murder of innocent human beings should go on. He was not a government informant. He was doing this as a demagogue in order to get more and more attention and more people to go attend his sermons, not thinking or caring about the fact that he was basically telling people to go join terror groups. How many people have died? We don't know. How many people joined terror groups? We don't know. What the results of his actions were? We don't know. How many people have been killed? We don't know. All we know is law enforcement did the wrong thing by tipping him off instead of investigating it and trying to find out what he was really doing and what the results have been, how many people have joined terror groups, and what has happened. You have to keep in mind that throughout the decades that me and my mother have been watched, my mother has never uttered one bad word considered bad, racist, or any way, shape, or form considered bad. In fact, if I would tell my mother that I'd have a Jewish wife, my mother would have such a nice reply that I would actually feel bad that I asked her at the mall. I'd be like, darn it, man, I should have asked at home so people could hear her reply. And my mother's reply would just be, I would welcome her with open arms regardless of her religion. And she would say the same thing after I'd come back home, thankfully. But my point is, my mother, during the decades that we've been watched, has never uttered one bad word considered bad, racist, or in any way, shape, or form considered bad at all, in any way, shape, or form. Decades that we've been watched, not one instance of her. Forget telling people to go mass murder. She has never been heard uttering one word considered bad her entire life. This is the difference between my dad, the greedy framer, and my mother. They're two totally different people. And so, basically, yeah. And the ironic part is my dad, the greedy framer, has been lying over and over again, trying to scam the courts over and over again, only to make sure that my mother cannot get the Brain Savant money by enviously trying to lock up my Brain Savant using lies after lies after lies. Even after the incest that he tried to lie so aggressively in court that the courts were forced to retrieve phone conversations, every single one they could, only to find out that even after the incest requests in early March, getting caught on November 20th with a crime in a setting that did not even exist, and yet it was fabricated and exaggerated by my dad, the greedy framer's sisters, so badly that the news media, CNN, people could not smile on live TV for days. That's how badly my dad asked his framer greedy sisters to fabricate November 20th against me. News anchors could not smile on live TV for days afterwards. That's how badly he asked his framer sisters to make a false testimony against me on November 20th. And then early March 2026, my dad, the greedy framer, started lying again, only to realize who the government informant was and that they'd already confessed to these set of statements as being lies as well. And then the phone conversations had to be retrieved after. So after all these lies are caught, November 20th and the ones following it, to try to enviously lock up my Brain Savant, my dad, the greedy framer, March 7th, sends me that same porn star's picture, Sunny Leone with his sister's father's name on it, despite having been told already on February 11th that this is an open advertisement for incest in exchange for an illegal exchange of money, since that is a porn star's picture with your sister's name on it. You disgusting old man, greedy as heck, only trying to enviously lock up my Brain Savant so that my mother could not get any of the money that he couldn't get. And the ironic part is he's trying to make accusation that my mother is some sort of a terrorist or something like that, of that sort or nature, since the entire case is revolved around it. Even though my mother has never been heard uttering one bad word considered bad her entire life. Not one bad word. And what he was doing in 2011 was terrible. Now, my dad, the greedy framer, might try to make these stories about what if this happens or what if that happens and what if he was going to do this or going to do that. The courts have to keep in mind that person's future actions are based on their past actions when they didn't know that they were being watched. My past actions, since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, all I've done in my life is work hard for my mother. Until my Brain Savant was found out about, no one cared about me. My dad, the greedy framer, couldn't care less if I was sleeping on the side of the streets. As soon as he finds out about my Brain Savant and that it's getting freed in 2025, he comes running after me, begging me to talk to him, and every single time he would get rejected, he would go and ask his framer sisters to go to court and make sure that my Brain Savant couldn't get freed. Before June 28, 2025, he was making insane videos about me. After I won my case on June 28, 2025, look at what he was doing on June 29, 2025, begging me to talk to him all day. Then July 18, 2025, he calls my sister and says, "Oh my God, I'm missing him. I feel like he's just been born right now. And I'm thinking of all the baby names for him. Babuji said, but I'm going to name him," only because he thought that my Brain Savant was about to get freed and he desperately wanted the money instead of my mother getting it. It's no secret that right now he's not even working. He's just sitting at home all day, getting his gambling thrill, or he would, if he would feel like he's not going to get any money from me, he would try to enviously scam the courts into not letting my brain savant freed. You have to understand the fact that my dad is a scam artist. Not only has he scammed the courts, every single person he knows, he scammed into thinking he has some sort of mystical powers, which is why he has a 5-foot-long beard, and people go to him to try to get their prayers answered by a man who on March 12th was asking me to fulfill his sexual perversions by sleeping with his ugly, disgusting looking old wife. And so basically you have to consider the facts over here. The fact of the matter is, my dad, the greedy framer, is trying to desperately scam the courts into